Hello, Year 9. Change of scene for me. Normally do it at the kitchen table. Um, we're on to a new scene, Act 3, Scene 5. What we've been working on for the past 3 weeks is Banquo's ghost scene. And obviously that's significant because Fleance is still on the run, and the witches predicted that Fleance would become king. So Macbeth's got a problem, and also the ghost of Banquo is there to show Banquo's guilt, and it also emphasises that Macbeth really is not that mentally stable. So it's a kind of turning point. Things are starting to go wrong for him. Now, in this scene, we're back to the three witches, and there's a new witch here, Hecate, who is in Greek mythology. She was the goddess of witchcraft. She is the witches' boss here, and she's here to tell them off. So, if I can find my cursor. There we go. So Hecate is talking to the first witch speaks first. Why now, Hecate, you look angry? And Hecate is come to speak to the three witches. She says, have I not reason, bedlams as you are? She's saying, have I not got reason to be angry? And then, which is a rhetorical question, and then she addresses the other three witches as beldams, saucy, and overbold. These are insults, really. She's saying that they are disobedient, that they are that they are out of control, and that their actions in 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 making predictions to Macbeth and in meddling with Macbeth's fate, she doesn't approve of their actions, which she then goes on to say here. How did you dare to trade and traffic with Macbeth in riddles and affairs of death? So, how did you dare to trade and traffic is a metaphor. So, how did you dare to interfere in Macbeth's life, and in particular in riddles and affairs of death, by which she means fate? So, remember, it is God in this particular time that controls the fate of human beings. That's what most people would have believed, and it is not for the witches to interfere in Macbeth's fate. Remember, a bit of context, that whilst we would look at this and all see it maybe as a bit humorous or a bit crazy, in Shakespeare's time people genuinely would have believed in witches, most of them, and most of them would have believed that it is possible for a witch to control the fate of a human being, or to cast a spell on a human being which would control their fate. Right. And I, the mistress of your charms, the close contriver of all harm. So me, the mistress of your charms, me, the person that controls the spells that gives you your gifts, was never called to bear my part. So you never consulted me at all, or show the glory of our art, and I was never given the opportunity to cast any spells or to give you any advice. Where's the cursor gone? Which is worse, all you have done hath been but for a wayward son. The wayward son is Macbeth. So she is saying all of the spells you've cast, all of your interfering has been for somebody that's undeserving of that. A wayward son, that's Macbeth. Spiteful and wrathful, that's describing Macbeth, who, as others do, loves for his own ends, not for you. So Macbeth is spiteful and wrathful. So he is an angry and ungrateful person who has used your magic, who has used your spells for his own ends. So he's used your predictions for his own selfish ends, and not for the witch's benefits. And he doesn't. There is no chance of him returning the help you've given him. So he's a selfish man who doesn't actually appreciate what you've done. But make amends now. Get you gone. So it's time to make up for what you've done, and now get out of my sight. And at the pit of Acheron, meet me in the morning. Um, Acheron is it's a river that leads to the gates of hell. And all of this would have been kind of believable to Shakespeare's audience. They would have believed in heaven and hell. They would have believed in witches. So it's significant that the witches are going to meet at the kind of border between at the boundary of hell. Maybe that hints that they could be sending Macbeth to hell, or maybe that's hinting that that's where witches abide, near hell or on the boundaries of hell. Thither he will come to know his destiny, so we will decide on Macbeth's destiny and let him know. So she is taking control over Macbeth's destiny now. Your vessels and your spells provide your charms and everything beside. I am for the air. So she's telling them, bring your cauldrons and your spells, your vessels, your cauldrons. So bring everything you need to cast spells. I am for the air, so I am off. I'm going. This night I'll spend unto a dismal and a fatal end. So she is going away to plan what spells she is going to cast and to make plans for their meeting the next day. Basically, she's going to decide what's happening to Macbeth and what she's going to tell the other three witches to do. Great business must be wrought ere noon, so we must cast our spells before noon the next day. Upon the corner of the moon there hangs a vaporous drop, profound. I'll catch it ere it come to ground. This is kind of a metaphor. She's saying that there is a drop hanging from the moon, and she needs to catch it before it hits the ground. So it's kind of an analogy for she needs to get the situation under control quickly. She needs to take control of the witches and take control of Macbeth's fate before it's too late, before things get any worse. So this is about acting quickly, this analogy between the moon and the spells. I'll catch it ere it come to ground, and that distilled by magic slates shall raise such artificial sprites as to the strength of their illusion. So she's saying what she's going to do here now. And that distilled, so she's going to make magic potions, magic spells, shall raise such artificial sprites. Sprites are like spirits, if you like, witches' spirits. So she's going to raise spirits and create illusions and confuse Macbeth. So this is clearly Hecate now in control, her telling the other witches what she's going to do. He shall spurn fate, scorn death, and bear, he hopes, above wisdom, great grace and fear. So he will be, this is what she plans to do. He shall spurn fate. So she's going to trick Macbeth into thinking that he is greater than fate, that he can defy death, that he is above wisdom, grace and fear. So she's going to trick Macbeth um, into thinking he has more power than he does. And remember, already he's getting pretty arrogant with his power and turning into a tyrant. So her idea to deal with Macbeth is to trick him into thinking he's even more powerful and make him even more arrogant. And she explains why here. And you all know security is mortal's chiefest enemy. So she's going to do that because she thinks if Macbeth thinks he's safe, that's when he is at most at risk. If he thinks that he is safe as king, then that's when he has the most to lose. So security means safety. And as always with witches, there is some music. So music and a song within, come away, come away. So the witches disappear there. And she says, hark, I am called by my little spirit. So she's saying, my spirit is calling me away and is waiting for me. So remember, witches had something called familiars, animals that they kind of controlled or could carry out their spells. And they also had spirits, almost like little, what we'd call fairies these days. Okay, 3 questions on this slide, please. Fairly easy. Oops, what's that? Don't show presenter view. Who is Hecate? Firstly, if you want to pause and write down your answer in 4 sentences. What does she tell the witches? She makes an arrangement with the witches. What is the arrangement she makes with the witches? What does she tell them to do? And overall, what's Hecate's opinion of Macbeth? What does she think of Macbeth? You could write down your answers, please, and then move on to the next slide.